second. So I guess the question is, what do we use in an election or at any time? Like, what do we use media for ever? Like we use media to communicate, all the social media. But during an election, what are we trying to do with all of our communication strategies? Right? We're trying to get people to vote for us and not the other guy, right? And so,
ideally without mudslinging.
well, ideally though, you know, like either way works. For I didn't mudsling, but the main thing is that, you know, I'm going to be incredibly cynical here, and this may depress Mark, is what makes Facebook so powerful politically is that that's where the old people are, and older people vote, right? So Twitter is younger. Reddit is even younger, and then that other stuff, which I don't think can be used for political reasons. I don't think you can go on Yik Yak and like anonymously talk about politics or Snapchat, right? Like there's no possible justification I can come up with to say to my wife why a 43-year-old man has a deletable, no records kept social media messaging platform, right? No, I'm not using it for affairs. I'm using it to talk to the kids about voting, you know? Like, so those things aren't really useful, I don't find, for politics at this time. But also, like Facebook, as annoying as Facebook is, and in the last panel, people were talking about how they're finding it kind of less and less interesting and more just a time suck. Facebook really is where the voters are, right? That's the social media platform that grandparents and older folks are comfortable with. But also the people who are feeding those pictures in there are municipally the other big group of voters that I came to realize during my campaign is people who, you know, their kids have just started in public school, they got a mortgage on a house, and they've kind of got a real stake, and so their interest in politics, especially local politics, is amplified because suddenly they can see real, like if that playground doesn't get fixed, my kid's going to get hurt. If they don't get a crossing guard there, my kid could get hurt, right? And so those kind of politics really seem to motivate. So those, what I've seen is those seem to be the two main groups that are most likely to vote in a municipal election where the turnouts are so low, and they are conveniently on Facebook. I wouldn't discount Twitter, though, because Twitter is where the media is, and what I was saying in the last group, and what you know we found in Halifax, and our corporate communications folks, public relations folks at the city will say this very frustratedly, is if 8 people are talking about an issue on Twitter, that becomes a news story, right? That suddenly they're getting calls. I'm getting calls as a politician about, well, there's this thing happening on the street by the lake, and the thing could just be that there's, you know, 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 people talking about it angrily about how they're being let down by the government on Twitter, and that becomes a news story. And also, all those reporters are posting stuff on a regular basis. All your opponents are posting stuff on a regular basis, and you're able to kind of see the dialogue of what's going on in the community on Twitter in a way that's a little different from Facebook. Because Facebook, you have to be friends and have that two-way relationship, and in Twitter, you can just follow people unless their profile is private. And public people, politicians and media and such, their profile is public. Now, we were talking about Mark's puppy during the last round because we were talking about Instagram. I'm relatively new to Instagram, but I have almost 1,000 followers now, and I take pictures on the phone all the time. I took 2 when I got here that actually got some response. And what's cool about Instagram, what I love about Instagram and why I use it, is that you take a picture. It's easier than coming up with a funny, pithy, intelligent tweet, making sure you spell it. My sin that I do all the time is I put T-O instead of T-O-O, you know, and then after the tweets that they're like, oh, I did it wrong again. There's always somebody on the internet who's gonna make fun of you. It could be character limit, or it could be, you know, the phone did it wrong. Always blame the phone, right? But with Instagram, you can take a picture of something and you can push that to Facebook and Twitter and Tumblr, and also to Flickr, which is a photo sharing website. So you can actually push stuff out there to 5 different channels of delivery. And so I find that, frankly, just a bit of a time saver and pretty convenient. And then the question is what kind of, and we'll get to content in a second, like what kind of pictures and what kind of message do you want to send out? So we have all these channels, and the last one I want to talk about really quickly is LinkedIn. And I don't post a lot of stuff on LinkedIn. It's the business networking website. But I do put my daily agenda. Today's agenda, I'm doing this, and then we have regional council. Every day I put out what I'm doing that day, so my constituents know where I'm going. And I also have on my website, I have my calendar so people can actually see what's in my Outlook calendar. I post that on my website. But so every day I put that up there on LinkedIn, and occasionally I put up the other story. But what's great about LinkedIn is it just kind of organically grows and grows and grows and grows and grows. And then you can download all of your contacts, and 70 to 80% of them's emails are there. And during an election, you're allowed to send them email, and it's exempt from the spam legislation. So during the last election, I had maybe 1,100 LinkedIn followers. I downloaded them all. I put them all into a money bomb on Nation Builder. Nation Builder was the website I used for my election. And a money bomb is, I need to raise $2,000 in 48 hours so that I can pay for my signs. Everybody's got to commit, and you've got a little thermometer on there, all that. And I fired in all those LinkedIn guys, and about half of them unsubscribed, and we raised $2,000 in 48 hours, right? And they by the end of the election, we figured that LinkedIn had resulted in $2,500 to $3,000 in revenue for the campaign out of our $17,000, about 20%. And so the main reason, I now have 3,500 LinkedIn subscribers, and they're all about to start getting hassled in 4 weeks. And so that's the main reason. LinkedIn otherwise is very boring, and I actually don't see what the point of it is business-wise. But the fact that I can pull the emails out of there and use that to add them to my mailing list is very powerful.
That was a question that came up this morning around, we were chatting about this, whether or not it's worth, at what degree, how annoying can you be with email blasts or requests for money before it no longer is worth the benefit of the donations it brings in? I know a lot of the research says that just keep doing it because you'll keep getting money.
Yeah, see, it's interesting. That's a whole other panel that we should have sometime, which is that municipal politics is entirely unlike provincial and federal politics. So you don't have a campaign machine, so there's no, that's party-based, so you have no party loyalty. And how that spins out in addition to, whatever, Stephen Harper could harass you as much as he wanted about issues and how you had to give money, and my in-laws would believe it and send him money. But on a municipal level, people are kind of there's a degree of being unengaged from the process, and there is no party loyalty. And I think that if you hammered them like I saw during the federal, that you would have a lot of unsubscriptions. And what's interesting is if you spend the money on a website like Nation Builder, or even if you're just using whatever kind of Kickstarter website that you would use for fundraising, whatever you're allowed to use, you can see when people unsubscribe. Right, so you get pretty immediate feedback. If you send 3 email blasts out in 48 hours and you watch 10% of your list disappear, you know not to keep doing that, right? Because that's not useful. Unless all the money comes in. Yeah,
I'll take it.
Yeah, I know. I found kind of a measured pace. We do 48-hour blasts, and we do maybe 2 or 3 emails, and we'd also do social media. Okay. And that was more than enough. We never missed. I think one we might have gotten a check in that arguably could have been for it, and we applied it to close it off. But we did 3, and they all came in time. So Sam talked about internet strategy and
so you have to go to the returning officer to get the rules for collecting donations.
Well, yeah, you should have that information, but it's pretty straightforward. It's more about reporting than it is collecting. Right now, there are no rules saying you can't take money from X, Y, and Z. You can take money from anywhere. So I had friends who have lived here but moved to Toronto were donating money. You can take any amount of money. You could theoretically get a $10,000 check from somebody, which probably, and since you don't have to report till after the election, probably would be okay until the next election. Then it would be the defining issue is that you are owned by that person.
Can you start
right now. Yeah, we were doing fundraising, and I've already started fundraising. We were doing fundraising last election in January. Yep, there's only a couple of rules, like now in Halifax, we have a bylaw that says you can't put out a sign till September 1st. But basically, the campaign has started, and there's a lot of people in Halifax who've already announced that they're running.
Should we be talking to the returning officer? To
Yeah, I'd go in and
verify
introduce
everything?
yourself and understand, make sure that you're not breaking any rules. I mean, the big thing for me is you can still in Nova Scotia be your own agent, but if you have an agent who isn't you, that's the best way to do it. They're the ones who should receive the checks. They're the ones who should be doing the follow-up phone calls if you have pledges and you're trying to get the checks. Because that way it's not you looking at the check going, oh, this guy, really? You shouldn't know that. I never asked for updates about that. I don't want to know that. We set the rules, we abided by the rules. I didn't take money from corporations and unions, but I don't want to know each person who's putting in a check because I might start to feel beholden to them. I don't want to know that. Let's talk about strategy and different social media. One of the big things is that a lot of folks have their social media set up, or at times have had their social media set up so that like they post on Twitter, and that also posts on Facebook. And that is a bad plan, right? Because on Twitter, you can post 10 or 15 or 20 or 100 times a day, and that's kind of okay. But if you're on Facebook and you post more than 2 or 3 or 4 times a day, unless it's like the rally or the day of the election, people are going to unfollow you because they're bored of that, right? So for me, the most basic internet strategy is to say, what do I want to say to people? What are my messages, right? How often am I going to tell them? 2 or 3 times a day I need to put something on Facebook, right? And it could be a picture of my dog, and then it's a little infographic that my graphic designer made about like where I stand on the crosswalk on the corner, and then it's a picture of me shaking hands with somebody, or it's a picture of, you know, a beautiful sunset, like that kind of thing. That's your Facebook. And then your
So
Twitter.
Pictures on Facebook.
Pictures are very good. Infographics are good if you have someone who can graphic design them. Short, very short, like nobody wants to read like 4 or 5 paragraphs, so 1, 2, 3 sentences. And then Twitter is restricted to 140 characters, so, you know, great, going to go walk in Leveland Park today. Great day, sunny day, great response from the neighbors here in Leveland Park. Picture of a street sign. That's one of the things that I was doing. I was actually Instagramming the pictures of like the intersection street signs, Inglis and Roby, right? And you just, every 20 minutes you do another street corner, and people knew that you were hustling, going door to door, knocking, right? And so Twitter, you can put a lot more stuff out there. The problem with Twitter is that people, oh yeah, like 5 to 10 times. I would have no problem saying your goal should be to put 10, 2 Facebooks and 10 tweets out a day when you're in campaign mode.
Twitter's a little more like interactive and social.
That's what I was about to say is on Twitter though, you've got to be prepared. Like every couple hours you're going to have to stop and sit down and hydrate if it's a sunny day and all that, and check your phone and respond because people are going to be talking to you. On Facebook, if they message you or even post on your wall, generally it's more like email in people's minds. They're willing to wait a couple of hours or a day for a response. But on Twitter, it's like it's all about, it's a very, very much close to instant, a for the moment thing. I mean, I have a reputation for being very fast on Twitter and social media, and people think it's faster to get a hold of me on social media than it is by any other method. I don't take my phone into a meeting, because if I'm going to meet with you about something and you're my constituent, the mayor does this, Mike Savage does this. I'll be in the middle of talking about something and his phone will buzz and he'll take it out and check it while we're talking.
Yeah.
You want to go slap that out of his hand. That's rude. What would your mother think, Michael?
Yeah, well,
So I don't even take my phone to meetings, because if I'm in a meeting, I'm talking to you, right? If I'm in a meeting, I'm supposed to pay attention to the presentation and vote on it, right?
Yeah.
But as soon as the meeting's over, usually before I leave
city council's
chambers,
doing that all the time.
I know, right? Well, sometimes that's happening in meetings because we're messaging one another going, okay, but what do we really think, guys?
Exactly.
So before I leave council chambers after a committee meeting or whatever, I either go right back to my office or I sit there. We have computers at our desks, and I bring up Reddit, Facebook, Twitter, and my personal email and my work email, and go and respond to anything that's come in and try and stay on top of it. And people are generally pretty happy with that. But yeah, so having a social media strategy, but then the key thing about the social media strategy isn't how often you do it, it's what are you saying and what is the goal, right? So to me, all of your communication, your door knocker, your direct mail, your advertising, all of those things, for me, it was all about driving people back to my website. I had a very good website. I still have a very good website. And the website had little policy pieces, pictures of me, information, and it had buttons down the side that said, take a lawn sign, sign up for my newsletter, my email newsletter, donate money to my campaign, right? So it's all about, like, everything was about, I had business cards, I had fridge magnets, I had all that stuff, and they all said, go to waymason.ca, go to waymason.ca, and it was all about the key messages were there. Mine were, if I can remember, spend smarter, fix council, grow sustainably. Those are the 3 things. And I had essays about that, little 5-paragraph, 400-word essays about
So
that.
you should only have 3 things that
But
you're
keep
working
it
on.
simple. It's got to fit on a page. It's got to fit on a piece of, like my handouts were that big. Picture, logo, 3 things, and then a little bio in the back, picture of the family, and contact info. And that's what was going in every door, right?
Pamphlet or just that size?
It was just that size. I didn't even do a pamphlet. Because the more complex the printing is and the more fancy you get, the more you're taking money away from other stuff, right? So we just did what they call, it was a rack card size, so just very simple. And so all your social media to me like is about driving people back to a website and capturing their email for a newsletter, because you're trying to harness them to vote. What are you trying to get out of people? A vote, a lawn sign, and money. What are they for? Votes, lawn signs, and money. What do you hope for? Votes, lawn signs, money, right? Above all, you want the vote, but how you get the votes is lawn signs and money, right? And so as much as I like, you know, we could go on for hours and hours and hours about social media, about like don't engage, don't fight with people like we talked about earlier, right? Recognize that some people are trolling you, is what they call it. They're looking for a negative response. They want you to engage them. They want to turn it into a big fight.
Just trying to waste your time.
They're trying to waste your time. They're trying to get you to say something embarrassing that your opponent can use against you later. So just like have a lot of restraint. Act, you know, sometimes you got to be a little bit like, sometimes I push back, but I try and be very, very restrained. Sometimes I think I'm going overboard, and I'm constantly getting messages from people going, I don't know how you do it, and don't tell that guy he's an idiot. So even if you're giving a bit of pushback, you're being very polite, respectful, compassionate. Don't know why that person's like that. They might live in their parents' basement. They might be a shut-in with disabilities. You don't know why they're angry at you. Try and be as compassionate as possible. They need somebody to vent at. Yeah, exactly, right? So you try not to make it personal. Try to rise above it. And there's most of the social media have an unfollow or a block that doesn't that doesn't make them so that they know they can't see you. So you can mute somebody on Twitter, right? So they don't know that you've done that, but you're not seeing their crap anymore. It's a bit dangerous because that means that if they tweet you a question, you're not going to see it. But see, it's basically unless someone gets to the point that you are like, I'm never responding to them again because it never works for me, don't do that. But as soon as they get to the point, mute them. It's good for your karma. You're not seeing the anger anymore. You move on, right?
There is a counselor that responds to comments on Facebook, and he really shouldn't because he sets himself into a trap. But
Where are you from again?
Truro.
Truro? Yeah.
Well, I'm not mentioning any names.
Yeah, no. Well, yeah, no, I have colleagues who've done it. I've done it myself. You know, sometimes we're only
I
human.
don't
You
know
make
why
mistakes,
he
but
responds to silly, because people will say and do whatever comes to their mind, and a lot of it has no. It's not real.
15 minutes. Yeah.
But he gets sucked into it, and then he just starts off a firestorm, which makes him look really bad.
If I was doing a presentation, I asked Mark, am I supposed to do a PowerPoint? Like I wasn't exactly sure how this was going to work. I was only going to have a single image, and the image is going to be the cartoon of the woman saying, honey, come to bed. And he's like, I can't come to bed. She says, why? He goes, someone on the internet is wrong, you know? And it's like, you are never going to convince that person. You just have to laugh, go, okay, fine. Let's, you know, a line I think, Mark, you've seen me use it on the internet. I'll just be like, okay, we're going to have to agree to disagree. And agree to disagree for me is code for I'm not responding to you anymore ever. Like I am done arguing with you about this. And it's just not worth it, right? Most of those people, the other line that I use a lot with angry social media is, those are interesting points. Why don't we meet for coffee and talk about it? And they never do that. I have had, how much success have you had? I think I've had like 1 or 2 in 3 years.
Almost always, like, yeah, probably about a similar level. It's almost always they either don't respond or they're impossible to pin down for a time, or they do respond and then now we're friends. And
Yeah.
that's great. I've met Drew more that way. That's how we, probably 3 or 4 years ago.
You know Cameron Prairie?
School in elementary.
You know Cameron, he's always Prairie Bright White's partner, who's always like extremely negative about everything on Twitter, but hilariously.
What's his Twitter hashtag? From God?
No, that's Andrew.
Okay.
P-R-I-E or P-I-R-I-E. He works at Hula Marketing, and Yeah, and he was just like, everything I did was stupid, and he found a very hurtful way. Like, he was tweeting in exactly the right way. I'll say this right into the camera. He was tweeting exactly the right way you were to hurt my feelings and get under my skin. And finally, I snapped and I DM'd him. I said, "I will buy you a beer today. Show up at Stillwell at 4. Come on, we got to talk." And now we're buds. He's actually working on my campaign, right? But it was one of those things where it was just like, we had stopped being people to one another, and it was almost like a video game or something. There was no humanity there anymore. So you want to avoid that at all costs. There's no value in having those arguments, right? You got to show that you can rise above it. You're trying to show the voters, the broader public, that you can take the slings and arrows, and that you can, handle the pressure. And if you freak out and get angry and spit and swear, well then, you can't handle the anger. Maybe you shouldn't have the job, right?
Do you think having a strong social media following before being a candidate for political office made it easier to get elected?
I think that the conventional media, the earned media stuff that I've been doing on CBC was actually more valuable. I have a mixed feeling. You missed me saying this earlier. I have mixed feelings about social media's ability to move votes, right? So, because I lost the internet vote in my district, right? Sue got the most votes on the online voting. Jerry got the second most, and I came in a hard third, 300 votes behind the lead. So we weren't able to mobilize a lot of people through internet voting. I did win in the end. I won by 94 votes in the end. The spread was 300 the other way. Me, then Sue, then Jerry, 300 down. I actually think that knocking on doors is the most important thing, and direct mail is the second most important thing, and social media is the third most important thing. But all of those pieces are about giving people an opportunity. You knock on that door, great to meet you. Here's my card. Here's my pamphlet. If you want more information, you visit the website, call me or email me. If you and some of your neighbors would like to get together, I can drop by. Just like name a time, let me know. I'd love to come and hang out. But the knocking on doors, the personal contact is important. And how that's reflected in the social media is back to what we were talking about with, if someone tweets you on Twitter, you got to call them back. You got to message them back. If someone messages you on Facebook, you have a little more time, but you got to Facebook them back. Obviously emails, obviously that kind of stuff. And also, if you have time, scroll through the people who are following you, follow some of them back, and like the stuff they're doing. Have that interaction, right? I had one constituent say, "It's nice when my counselor likes the picture of the flowers that just came through in my yard." But she looked at me and said, "But I do sometimes wonder, how do you possibly have the time to care about my flowers?" I said, I do that when I'm drinking my coffee in the morning. I haven't quite woken up. I'm just scrolling through. I like stuff, right? Or during
wish you happy birthday, which is another thing you do on Facebook to everyone.
aggressively.
Yeah.
Everybody gets a happy birthday. Well,
No, you just
it's a
say
great day.
thanks,
Happy birthday. And or old if they are a former student of mine. I accuse them of becoming old. So yeah, to close, sit on your hands, stay calm. Have someone like my wife will text me, and if she can't raise me in text, call me and say, "Step away from the keyboard." If I start to get too heated, so I basically have my wife helps to monitor me, because you do get heated, and you're like, "I'm going to correct that guy. He's so wrong." And there's no upside to that any more than there is if we had that kind of argument face to face right now.
Might galvanize the people who are opposed in favor of.
Yeah, it might just show that you're a person who just can't be trusted to stay calm and have a rational argument, and lets people get under their skin. So you got to stay calm, have a plan, think about messaging stuff. Pictures are good. I said earlier in the other group, I don't think that pictures of you shaking hands with a check, grinning, like they call them in political parlance, they're the grip and grin photos. Grip and grin. Like, I don't think that's particularly useful, because the bottom line, and this is the most important thing before we finish, is it's all about authentic discussion. They talk about that in social media and communication all the time.
Especially this day and age.
Absolutely. So if it feels packaged, if it feels, and that can still work. I feel like a lot of stuff we saw federal was so inauthentic. I can't believe any of those people got elected. But being authentic on a local level means understanding, taking the time to respond. People love it. I've had, especially this sounds awful to stereotype them, but the little old ladies love it when they call you or they message you and you go, "Oh yeah, that's on the corner of Franklin and Rockford, right?" And you know exactly what they're talking about, or you know the neighborhood. And that means something to people. He understands my neighborhood. He's been here, he's walked around. Or like the best one is that an elected person is when someone messages you and goes, I don't think it's going to be safe when they start tearing down the walls at the CBC to still have people walking by. And I could message back and say, I agree. I biked by there earlier today. I've already talked to the site manager and they're going to block that off on Monday. That's solid gold. Like when you are able to place that, yes, my concerns are your concerns, but it has to be real. It can't be forced.
And it has to be followed through.
Yeah.
You can't just say something, then drop it, because people don't, they want answers. They don't want you just to say, well, I checked into that, but then they never hear from you and the job's not done.
And the biggest challenge is finding a way to say you don't agree with someone or that can't be fixed, because not everything can be fixed. Not everything is actually broken. Never say it can be when it can't. And you have to find a nice way, you know, like we all have to agree to disagree. Or, I mean, the biggest one, the best example in Halifax right now is whether or not we're going to do our new transit plan. If you're going to reallocate the buses and move the routes around, a lot of people will get better service and some people will get worse service or no service. There's no way to have a plan like that without adding more money that everybody gets better stuff. And because unfortunately the plans come back right before an election, I don't know that the majority of councillors are going to vote for a change, because some people will get less and they're going to be really upset, and they will be on Twitter and they will be on Facebook and they'll be writing letters to their MP and their MLA and the Queen demanding that something be done, you know, and so yeah, I think it's very important to find a way. You have to practice finding ways to say to people, well, you know, I don't know if that's, you know, like maybe we have to think about creative ways to try and solve that problem, rather than say, yes, you're totally right if you think that they're wrong, you know.